There is something unique about a woman who carries favor. She doesn't just move with grace, she moves with reinforcement. She is never alone. Though the room may be empty, she is never abandoned, even if people leave. Because God's favorite women do not walk by sight, they walk by faith. And when a woman walks by faith, she walks in a realm where angels are not optional. They are assigned. God doesn't favor you for decoration, He favors you for a purpose. Heaven does not waste resources. When God places favor on your life, He dispatches angels to surround it. You see, angels are not sent because you cry. They are sent because you carry something sacred, something divine, something eternal. Your womb is not just physical, it is spiritual. It carries visions, dreams, nations, movements, breakthroughs, and that kind of purpose requires protection. There are times when life will strip you of companionship, affirmation, and applause. But that is when divine reinforcement shows up. When the world turns its back, heaven opens its gates. You may not see the angels, but they are walking beside you. Because God will never assign you to an assignment and leave you without support. If He sent you, He covered you. The woman who is chosen must understand this. Your obedience is a signal in the spirit. Every time you say yes to God, angels respond. When you resist temptation, when you love instead of hate, when you trust instead of doubt, your yes echoes in the heavenly realm and angels are mobilized. You don't need to ask them to come. They come because you are where God wants you to be. Favor is not a feeling, it is a function. It is not about comfort, it is about calling. The woman who is God's favorite is not exempt from storms, but she is exempt from destruction. She may walk through the fire, but she will not be burned. Why? Because there are beings walking with her, lifting her, shielding her. She doesn't fight alone. She doesn't cry alone. She doesn't rise alone. When you understand that your identity is rooted in God's purpose, you will stop begging for people to stay. You will stop questioning your journey. Because you know where there is destiny, there is divinity. Where there is purpose, there is presence. God has stationed angels at every intersection of your life. In your confusion, they guide. In your pain, they comfort. In your assignment, they empower. You are not just a woman, you are a carrier of kingdom legacy, a daughter of divine strategy. And because of that, heaven has marked you. That mark doesn't repel trouble, it repels destruction. It doesn't prevent betrayal, it prevents defeat. You are God's favorite, not because of what you have done, but because of what you are carrying. When God places His favor on a woman, it is never for vanity or display. It is always for divine intention. Favor is not just a spiritual decoration. It is a signal in the heavenly realm. It draws the attention of heaven's resources. Favor is evidence that God has identified you as a vessel of His will. And where His will is present, His assistance must follow. Divine favor is like a spiritual magnet. It pulls into your life what human strength could never achieve alone. It attracts help that you didn't ask for, protection you didn't see coming, and opportunities no one can explain. The reason many women do not understand the weight of God's favor is because they think it's about feeling special. But favor is not a feeling, it is a divine responsibility. And God will never give you a responsibility without also assigning support. That support may not always come from people. It may not look like applause or validation. More often than not, it comes in the form of unseen assistance, divine interventions, supernatural timing, divine delays, and angelic assignments. Every time a woman walks in favor, she carries more than herself. She becomes a carrier of divine plans. That kind of weight demands reinforcement from heaven. You are not just being helped, you are being escorted. God's favor triggers divine activity. Things begin to shift, not because you manipulated them, but because favor invited God's hand to move on your behalf. You don't need to beg for help when you are favored. You don't need to chase support. Heaven responds to favor with divine assistance. And that assistance is strategic, timely, and unstoppable. Wherever there's divine favor, divine help is already moving, already walking, already waiting to show up right when you need it most. Angels are not emotional responders. They are the divine executors of purpose. Heaven's messengers are not moved by tears, frustration, or emotional breakdowns. They're activated by alignment. They're drawn not to how you feel, but to how you function within the will of God. Emotion does not move the supernatural realm. Assignment does. That's why a woman can be weeping in confusion, yet still surrounded by silence, while another woman standing firm in obedience commands angelic movement without ever raising her voice. Angels are assigned to purpose. They operate under divine instruction, not sympathy. When a woman steps into her God-given assignment, when she aligns her steps with heaven's will, she triggers a supernatural escort. It is not her beauty, not her eloquence, not even her pain that activates them. It is her positioning. When you are in position, heaven recognizes protocol. Angels respond to that order. Many women wonder why they feel unseen by heaven, even though they are broken inside. But heaven doesn't respond to brokenness alone. It responds to obedience within brokenness. If tears alone summoned angels, every crying woman would be surrounded by miracles. But it is not the cry that moves them. It is the cause behind the cry, the assignment behind the agony. When God sees that your pain is connected to your purpose, he sends angels not to console you, but to carry you through it. When you say yes to the call, when you stay faithful to the instruction, when you pursue the assignment despite the cost, then and only then do angels move. They are not sent to pamper your emotions, but to push the purpose of God in your life. That's why the woman who is aligned with heaven's mission never walks alone. She doesn't need to feel angels to be followed by them. Purpose is the divine shield that surrounds the woman chosen by God. When a woman understands her purpose, she becomes dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. She is no longer tossed by opinions, emotions, or temporary storms, because her identity is rooted in assignment, not affirmation. Purpose is not something she carries for herself. It is the very reason for her existence. And because of that, heaven protects what heaven invests in. The woman who walks in purpose is not preserved by luck or chance. She is preserved by divine strategy. God does not allow purpose to be destroyed. Even when life feels like it is falling apart, it is often falling into place because purpose overrides pain. The attack may come, but it cannot cancel the assignment. The storm may rise, but it cannot stop the promise. Purpose is what keeps her covered, even when she feels vulnerable. When you carry something eternal, you cannot be handled casually. God surrounds you with invisible boundaries. That's why some doors close. They were never aligned with your purpose. That's why some relationships collapse. They were never meant to carry the weight of your destiny. God will subtract what threatens purpose. He will allow loss to protect legacy. He will let you be rejected so your assignment can remain intact. The woman of purpose may be misunderstood, but she is not unprotected. She may be alone, but she is not exposed. She may feel weak, but her purpose is her strength. Heaven doesn't just watch over her. It watches over what she carries, because what she carries is not hers. It belongs to generations. It belongs to the kingdom. And purpose is always protected because it is too costly to be wasted, too sacred to be unguarded, and too powerful to be defeated. Obedience is the spiritual key that unlocks heaven's military. When a woman submits her will to God's will, she triggers movement in the unseen realm. Angels do not respond to wishful thinking or good intentions. They respond to divine instruction followed with precision. Heaven is structured. It is orderly. And in that divine order, obedience is the currency that moves the supernatural. Every act of obedience is a declaration in the spirit that says, I trust God more than I trust my feelings. And that trust becomes the foundation for divine activity. When a woman chooses to obey God, even when it costs her relationships, comfort, or understanding, she sends a signal that she is ready to carry what heaven is ready to release. And heaven does not leave an obedient vessel uncovered. God does not send angels where there is rebellion. He sends them where there is agreement. When your actions align with his instruction, the invisible army begins to operate on your behalf. They go ahead of you to prepare the path. They surround you when danger rises. They hold back what the enemy sends. But all of this is contingent upon obedience, not partial obedience, not delayed obedience, full, prompt, surrendered obedience. Obedience is not just about doing the right thing. It's about staying in the right place spiritually. Because angels are assigned to the coordinates of purpose. If you step out of position, you step away from the protection that was waiting there. But when you stay where God tells you to stay, even when it doesn't make sense, you stay within range of supernatural backup. The woman who obeys without needing to understand walks with more power than she can see, because with every obedient step, angels are deployed, and though they are invisible, their presence is undeniable. Favor is often misunderstood. Many assume it means a life without struggle, a path without resistance, or a journey paved with ease. But divine favor is not a promise of comfort. It is a guarantee of covering. When God places favor on a woman's life, he doesn't remove the battles. He secures her victory in the midst of them. He doesn't eliminate the storms. He ensures she won't drown in them. Favor is not the absence of warfare. It is the assurance of divine protection during the war. The favored woman will still face rejection. She will still encounter betrayal. She may still be overlooked, ridiculed, or misunderstood. But none of those things can penetrate the shield of covering that favor provides. What would have destroyed others only develops her. What crushed others only makes her rise. Why? Because favor doesn't stop the weapon from being formed. It stops it from prospering. God's covering is not always loud. It may look like closed doors, delayed opportunities, or detoured plans. But what seems like frustration is often preservation. The favored woman must learn to trust God's no as much as his yes, because every redirection is part of her protection. Every silence is part of her preparation. The favor of God builds a hedge around her life that no enemy can bypass unless permitted for purpose. Favor is costly. It marks you. It separates you. It invites spiritual attack. But it also brings divine reinforcement. The favored woman is not weak. She is chosen. And being chosen means being covered in ways the world cannot explain. People may envy her position, but never understand her pressure. They may desire her outcome, but not survive her process. Because favor does not guarantee ease, it guarantees endurance through God's covering. Spiritual vision is the ability to see beyond the natural, to perceive what the physical eyes cannot detect. It is not about being mystical. It is about being aligned. The woman who carries divine purpose must develop spiritual eyes, because not everything real is visible. There are seasons when God is working, angels are moving, and heaven is fighting on her behalf. Yet everything around her looks silent. In those moments, it is spiritual vision, not emotion, that keeps her steady. The supernatural realm is not hidden from everyone. It is hidden from the untrained eye. The favored woman must learn to see with discernment. She must learn to interpret divine silence, to recognize God's fingerprints in the ordinary, and to feel the weight of angelic presence even when she feels alone. Without spiritual vision, she will mistake transition for abandonment. She will confuse protection with rejection. She will walk away from divine help simply because it wasn't dressed in the form she expected. Spiritual vision is what allows a woman to keep walking when the way isn't clear. It helps her recognize that the delay is divine, that the wilderness is a corridor, not a curse, that the people who left made room for the ones assigned. She begins to discern not just what is happening, but why it's happening. And more importantly, she begins to sense who is walking with her. When others only see the natural, the spiritually discerning woman sees angels stationed at every corner. She senses divine alignment in conversations, in detours, in dreams. She knows when heaven is near. She knows when the atmosphere has shifted because her eyes have been trained in prayer, in stillness, and in intimacy with God. Spiritual vision is not a gift for the elite. It's a necessity for the favored, because she is not just living in the visible, she is walking with the invisible. God never plans purpose without preparing protection. Wherever he deposits destiny, he assigns defense. The woman who carries divine purpose is never left to fend for herself. She is accompanied by a heavenly host, even if she doesn't feel it. Angels are not random visitors. They are strategic agents. They are stationed where purpose is active, where assignments are unfolding, and where heaven's agenda is being carried out on earth. When God calls a woman into purpose, he understands the weight she will carry, the warfare she will face, and the enemies she will confront. And because of that, he assigns angels in advance. Before the battle begins, the reinforcements are already present. Before the enemy makes his move, heaven has already made its response. This is why some attacks fail without explanation. This is why doors open despite opposition. It's not luck, it's divine placement. Purpose draws pressure, but it also draws protection. Angels don't follow comfort, they follow calling. That means they don't show up in the absence of trouble. They show up in the middle of it. They appear in the wilderness, in the fire, in the lion's den, in the prison cell, because those are the places where purpose is tested and refined. And God never allows purpose to be tested without assigning heaven to watch over it. The woman who is planted in her divine assignment may feel surrounded, but she is not outnumbered. She may be pressed, but she is not crushed, because for every assignment, there is angelic assistance. God does not just send you, he sends what you need to fulfill the mission. And even when you can't trace his hand, his presence is evident in the divine protection around your purpose. Where God plants you, he posts angels. Where he assigns you, he covers you. And where he sends you, he surrounds. So hear this and never forget it. If God has favored you, called you, and planted purpose inside of you, you will never walk alone. You may walk through valleys, but not without angels. You may endure fire, but not without divine protection. You may lose people, positions, and plans, but you will never lose God's presence. His angels are not optional. They are ordained, assigned, stationed, because heaven does not abandon what it invests in. You are not just a woman surviving life, you are a woman carrying destiny. And destiny demands a covering. So lift your head, wipe your tears, walk with authority, because unseen armies walk with you. Purpose walks with you. The power of God walks with you. You are covered, surrounded, and carried, not by the crowd, but by the King. You are God's favorite, and God's favorite women never walk alone.